One, two, three, four, five, and we're good. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. This is episode 9 now. We've been doing this for quite a while.
hmm Hopefully, I won't get the number of months wrong this time. It's four, no, so two months and 1 week. There we go. Last week I was so off, just so off.
Teaching people how to use calendars. Yeah, it's
I
very
can
important.
maths real good.
I can add. Anyway, yeah, so we're here, segment 1. Let's see. I confessed before we started this podcast that I really didn't have anything good for topics. I wrote a couple things down, but they kind of sucked. You said you had some ideas, so what was
Yeah,
your...
it was ironic because I woke up today. I was like, man, this would be possibly a good topic, but I don't want to like step on Kaiser's toes at all. So
No, no, no. This is a
even
two-way
better.
street.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about morals being enforced in games, whether it's through multiple choice games like The Walking Dead or Mass Effect, as we talked about before, um, or it's a single. You can't really differ from the plot, like in Spec Ops: The Line,
Mm.
where you're kind of forced to be a bad person. You kind of got to live with the consequences. And
Well,
you still feel like a bad person for it,
yeah.
but it was technically your decision.
That's yeah. Okay, so that's good. So you're thinking like there moral choice, just for background for the people who listen and don't really play a ton of video games. A lot of games will have like a moral choice aspect to them, or like you're saying, there's two kind of ways that it can go. They either have a moral choice system, and those can be handled well or poorly, where you choose throughout the game to do or not do certain things, and that kind of reflects on your character and or your gameplay in some way. But then you have other
hmm
games like Spec Ops: The Line is a fucking masterclass of a game where the game follows a linear plot. Like the plot points are going to happen, but the game
Yeah.
has you do some horrible things in it and then makes you feel guilty for doing what it told you to do.
Yeah, I mean, but even with the ones where you have a choice whether you do something right or wrong, a lot of the time the plot does not deviate based on those like that change.
Mm.
Um, so like with the I don't want to go down the Mass Effect rabbit hole again. I'll choose a different
Right.
one.
Well,
The The Walking Dead.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure no matter what choices you make, at the end of the episode, certain characters are always alive, certain characters always die.
Yeah, that's a thing for Telltale Games. They make
Hmm.
the Walking Dead video games, and they also make the what was it? They did a Batman one. They did a
Yeah, they do
Kings.
some really bad. They do Minecraft and everything, but The
Yeah,
Walking Dead is the only good one,
they
I
did a
think.
Borderlands. No, the Borderlands one was actually pretty good.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I've never had much interest in Borderlands. I don't know. You'd think I'd love it because of like the art style and things,
hmm.
but the characters have just never grabbed me.
The first the actual like main Borderlands games, they're really just run and gun shooter looter kind of games. You play them multiplayer. You play them with your friends. You're not really there for the plot. It's kind of funny at times, but that's not really why you're playing the game.
Yeah.
But then Telltale took it and they made a actually really good story driven episodic thing out of it. I don't want to call it. I feel weird calling them games because they're really they're games in the same sense that like everyone's gone to the Rapture as a game. It's a walking simulator where
Yeah,
you get to
it's
make
a
choices every now and
visual
again.
novel
Yeah, it's more along that line. But again, they took the
with
Borderlands
less anime
setting.
people in it.
They took the Borderlands setting and they made some like a compelling story out of it. Had some interesting characters and stuff.
And
Um,
I will say, I really enjoyed watching the Telltale Games series. And I don't think I've actually played any of them myself. I've watched the Walking Dead one from about three different people's perspectives.
hmm,
And it is a really thrilling story.
I've played.
I mean, yeah, it's a good book, basically.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's a good book. I've played through it all the way. I think I don't know if they made a fourth one, but I've played the first three. The one
Hmm.
where you have that the dude. I can't remember his name.
Kenny?
No, Kenny was the redneck. The main dude in the first game is
Oh my
uh
god, how can I love that guy.
yeah, he was
Um,
such a good character, and like the way they
it
handled
was.
his stuff in the I don't know,
It
that's
was
gonna
the
come through
small
my
name.
mic, but
I'm gonna look this up while you waffle.
so I really enjoyed the storyline. Like the first one where he ends up meeting up with this little girl, and he's trying to keep her safe and keep her alive. And
Lee.
hmm? Lee, that's
Lee
what it
Everett.
was. His name was Lee, and the
Yeah.
girl's name was Clementine. By the
Yeah.
way, if I can deviate for a second, Clementine is a really good example of how to have a well-written child character. Because a lot
Oh,
of the
absolutely.
times when you have like a child in a movie or a book or a TV show, they're just placed there to give people a motivation to do something.
Hmm. And they're
Um,
quite often whiny and just generally can't help themselves. In this case,
exactly.
Clementine, don't get me wrong, there's some things that she definitely cannot do.
Right.
But there are other things where she excels better than an adult. Like,
Well, that's what they did. They took a really well developed. They like this girl probably lost her family. She has like one thing to remember them
yeah, she
by.
did.
She knows that she's a burden to these people and kind of does her best to stay out of the way. But there's moments where she's still a child, and
Mm.
still has that just like hope to find a parental figure or something like that. It's
Yeah.
a very compelling story. But you're right.
And you definitely see a progression in her character. You
Right.
definitely see her growing up.
Well, and she's an adult by the third game and actually ends up being one of the major characters.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, to bring it back to what you said, they definitely do not change the plot significantly no matter what choices you make in the game. Like
Uh,
some things will change, like maybe a character will like not like you and they'll have like a line of angry dialogue, but the plot basically Telltale Games is masterful at giving you choices that appear meaningful but do practically nothing.
exactly, yeah. It gives you a real, like, in the heat of the moment, you completely forget all that, and you're like, oh my god, I can't go without this person. I have to save this person.
Right. It
And, yeah,
exceptional
that's really
writing.
anyway.
Exceptional writing. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
said we don't want to go down the Mass Effect track again, but the only thing I will say is Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 all the way up to the ending is an
Mhm.
amazing example of the plot actually changing and deviating somewhat, like in significant ways, and the gameplay too, depending on what choices you make. Some people will be alive or dead, some factions will be hostile or allies. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, I
not.
kind of see it in the same way, because it's at the end of the day, again, it comes down to, instead of in The Walking Dead, it's keep one person alive or the other. In Mass Effect, it's keep one person or group alive, and
Hmm,
say heck you to the other. Um,
I can see that, yeah.
but it does definitely impact the actual, because in Mass Effect there's actual shooting gameplay, and so the choices you make do actually affect the assistance you get,
Yeah.
because different groups give you different things, as I recall.
Yeah, there in Mass Effect
Uh,
2, it's entirely possible to get your entire crew and yourself killed.
so what I'm saying is it's a lot more tangible in Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less emotionally gripping, but
It depends
yeah,
on how
it's
invested you
useful
are
for
in the
the game.
characters.
Yeah.
I've played those games so many times, like all of those characters are just like, ah, Rex is my boy.
Is that the Krogan?
Yeah, that's a big dinosaur dude.
Uh, I do love him.
It's literally my favorite character that entire
Is he the one
series.
who's British?
No. No, he talks like Shepard.
He's a sniper or something.
There
Who am I thinking of?
I don't think there's a British sniper.
Uh,
There is a British character in the third game, but she just like is your tech person. She's not actually like a playable person in the game.
I think yeah, it's got like a stony face. I'm looking things up again. I'm sorry. I hope this doesn't come through on the audio.
I can hear the keyboard.
Garrett.
Oh, Garrus. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he's my favorite
He
boy.
doesn't have like a British accent though.
doesn't he? It's been many years since I played it.
Yeah, I don't think he has a, unless they patched it for the UK version.
He just seems like a tea drinking motherfucker.
Yeah, he's another really
Pardon
good
my
character.
language.
I wasn't like a huge fan of him in the first game, but he really came into his own in the second one. We're going off on Mass Effect again. We were
Yes, we
talking
are.
about.
This is why I was trying.
Yeah, I know, I know. So we're talking about like morality in games, like in
Mm.
specifically how the game tries to either let you have your own morals or how it tries to push you in one specific direction.
Yeah.
In Spec Ops:
Maybe
The
we
Line.
should.
Oh, sorry.
I was about to say maybe we should go to Speckles Line because that is a
Yeah,
game that we both found. It was actually recommended to me by you,
yeah,
so I played it, and I played it again, all the way through another 3 times because I think I was trying to bend the morality of the game and be like, I don't want to click here, because I know what will happen.
yeah.
If we go on,
So to give a quick plot synopsis, and I will emphasize like skip ahead 5 or 10 minutes if you like if you actually care about the plot because some of the twists in this are just gripping.
it is
So
a brilliant game, and I would recommend you play it. But if you're not the kind of person who plays games, then yeah, just
so
listen.
in terms of like gameplay, it's just a generic like third person like shooter. Like you're playing as this special ops guy from the U.S. Army. He's going into Dubai. There was some kind of a massive uh, ecological catastrophe, and some U.S. relief force went in, but they lost contact with them. No one's had any contact. So you get sent in there with your team of like it's you and 2 other dudes. And gameplay wise, again, very generic shooter, but slowly over the course of the over the course of things, like your guy gets more and more like seemingly mentally unstable. I guess he's doing more and more fucked up things, and then there's like this big revelation at the end that you actually were the one that did all of this. Like you were the people that went in there in the first place, and you've set up yourself as this sort of little king of this chaotic world, like this that's been created by this city being completely isolated, and like the game reveals it slowly until like a big crescendo at the end where they actually show you, and it's like boom, this is what's actually been going on the whole time.
Mm.
But excellent story. If it follows along, it's the Heart of Darkness, the book, and I think was later remade into a movie that I do not remember the name of. That was set in Vietnam, but it's an older book. So Heart of Darkness is a book about a similar thing happening, but it's set in the 1800s, and it's a British expeditionary party in Africa. But pretty much the same plot.
But yes, the way I kind of see it is if Call of Duty got deep, if they stopped with all this stupid high tech gizmos that no one really gives a damn about and actually got morally down dirty.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, I know I kind of like went around and around with the story a little bit, but the driving.
that's kind of the story.
Yeah,
It goes
no,
round and
but
round.
but driving home the morality point is the game. Like the game tells you to do things that you would do in a normal FPS. It's like, oh, use this weapon on these enemy targets over here, and it turns out that you just firebombed civilians with white phosphorus. Which is, if you don't know what it is, it's an extremely like brutal weapon that I think is actually banned now because it essentially melts people alive. And
anyway,
but the game,
maybe.
no, come on, let me finish. The game tells you to do things that you would do in like another generic first-person shooter or third-person shooter, like a war shooter, and then makes you feel guilty for doing it. Like it's on the surface, it's a generic shooter, but beneath the surface, it's like this psychological game that really messes with you. All right, that's it. Summary over. What were you gonna say?
Okay. I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I was just trying to say that's maybe a little too brutal detail.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and then there was the other game Deus Ex.
Oh yeah, Deus Ex. Well, the original one or Human Revolution?
I'm talking about the only good one.
Oh, so the original one.
Human Revolution.
Okay, nope. So
The
there are four games. There's Deus Ex, Deus Ex Invisible War, Deus Ex Human Revolution, and then Deus Ex Mankind Divided. The two
Yeah, Human
modern
Revolution.
one are Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. Yeah.
Um, because I consider that the good one because although it had a terrible ending as we discussed before, um,
Yep.
the actual like combat and stuff really fun, and it gives you an option from the beginning. Do you want to go in deadly or do you want to go in tranquilizer, like on all the enemies you fight?
Yeah.
And you can use both by any means, but it's kind of like a completionist thing, I suppose. If you take the less than lethal route, because obviously enemies can get back up again, but there is still the moral quandary of you're not technically killing all these criminals, you're just sending them to prison like a good law enforcement agent would do.
Yeah. And but
Uh,
the deadly approach, which you in the game still don't really get punished for except in certain situations. You can complete the game either way and still things will work
oh,
out relatively the same. It's really your own headcanon. Like,
hmm.
do you
But I
feel
think
morally justified?
there are points in it where if you get through like a whole area without killing anyone, when you finally talk to the boss at the end, he's like, "Look, you didn't kill any of my men. I'm going to be a lot easier talking to than
There
if you
yeah.
just murdered your way into here."
There are yeah, that's true. There are in-game consequences to, you're it's easier to
Hmm.
talk somebody down like at the end if you didn't murk all of his people.
Yeah, but it is easier to get to him if you do just murk all of his people. So it's
Exactly.
that weighing up of the two. Um, but
It
yeah, it's very limiting. It's kind of yeah, to be morally righteous in that game makes it a lot harder, which I think is a really good payoff because um, it is a very real challenge. You can't use any explosives. You can't like bear hug people through walls.
yeah.
Um, yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just thinking of other games that have done something similar and but not as well. And I think
Okay,
a really good example of that is what's it called? It starts with a D.
I thought you were gonna say Metal Gear Solid.
I haven't played that game.
They do the same thing.
Okay.
So that's the D. Uh,
It's the one. It's like crap. You're in like a pseudo medieval place. You're an assassin. We're not really an assassin, but you get framed.
Divinity?
There's rats everywhere. Crap. What the hell is that game called?
Uh,
Talk about something else while I look this up.
okay.
That's the theme of this segment. I think that's what I'm going to title this segment. Talk about something else while I look this up, because we've
Okay,
both done it
well,
now.
moral games that we've been playing very recently that we played yesterday was Among Us, which isn't really a moral game. It is kind of a moral game because I feel morally bad after playing it.
Only if you get to be the imposter.
Because someone, the moment someone accuses me, it's a big like, okay, it's big on trending at the moment. It's this old game people have only just picked up because people have started playing it on YouTube and Twitch, and
Dishonored.
I
It's called Dishonored.
okay, cool.
Oh my god,
Uh, didn't I say that? No, I said Divinity.
you did.
Um, and yeah, so the moment someone accuses me of being the bad guy, I jump down their throat so hard. I'm like, it's this person, it has to be.
Yeah, you
And then,
overcompensate. It kind of gives you away though.
no, no, no. When I was innocent, there were two occasions when I was completely innocent, and even the time when I was guilty, when people said I was using vents, I never used a vent, and people kept accusing me of using vents. And so I was furious. And I'm like, this person's a liar. And then it turns out they were lying. And then that just screws the whole team. Because I can be very passionate about my views when I'm being accused on games.
That's
Um,
what I found that my success. I never got accused even once, and that's
no, you
most.
didn't. You were typing stuff like, I want to make cookies into the chat while everyone else was accusing murder.
Yeah, exactly. That was my strategy. It was just I'm just gonna say nonsensical bullshit.
Yeah.
Or like somebody said like I have suspicions for no one, and I was like I have many suspicions for everyone.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was
You
just
were like, Someone said I'm powering up, and you're like powering up for murder.
Yeah, exactly. I just said like goofy shit like that the whole time, and no one ever suspected
Um,
me.
to be fair, people, I don't think I ever got thrown out of the airlock.
No, I tried to
And
throw
no
you out when
point.
you were the imposter because I figured you out,
Yeah,
but I didn't have enough
yeah. After I got
votes.
you to kill two people for me.
Yeah, God, I trusted my
uh,
friend. It blinded me to the monster that he had become.
and then my new friend killed my old friend.
God damn it. So, but bringing it
Funny.
back, now that I know what game I was talking about, Dishonored does something very similar to Deus Ex, but more poorly.
This one is the one with the brother and the sister, right? The
That's
mask.
Dishonored 2.
Oh, okay.
So Dishonored 1, it's just the guy. And
Yeah.
he was actually her bodyguard, not her brother.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I've never played any of the games. I've just seen little
I've
bits
only
of
played the
footage.
first one, and that was enough for me to not want to play the second one. The gameplay is a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Similar thing where you have objectives on a map. You have a lot of different ways to go about it. You can be all lethal or all stealthy or a little mix of both. Only. But the problem is, this game, it has a good and a bad ending. So you have to either be 100% stealthy or, well, not 100%, but close enough, or 100% lethal to get one ending or the other. It Deus Ex almost is helped by the fact that it has an ending Tron 5000 at the end where you just push a button and get the ending you want.
Yeah.
Because all of the moral choices in the game are kind of just all like there's some limited gameplay benefits, right? But it's mostly in your head.
Yeah.
Like,
It's supposed to just get to the end. That's
yeah.
your main goal.
So with this game though, it doesn't do that. The game has like a moral choice system that it doesn't tell you about and then judges you about at the end,
Yeah.
which could be good, could be bad. But my problem is once I like that occurred to me that there's probably going to be a good ending if I just go. I just did 100% stealthy, and not because it was the more natural way to play it.
You did 100% stealthy.
I wanted the good ending. It's not how I would have played the
Damn.
game had I known that. I probably would have. I probably would have shanked a few more people. There are,
Exactly. You would have loved to get just loud incarnate.
yeah. I do play stealth games every now and again.
This
It's,
long silence hasn't been added in. This is what it genuinely sounds like.
is this you being surprised that I actually do, occasionally do some
Well,
stealth?
yeah, because I mean, whenever you play a game, it's either shotgun or heavy machine gun that you take. There's no other option on your screen.
They are my spirit animals.
Yeah.
God. Okay. So, all right. Well, we're probably 7 minutes away from the end of this segment. Any other games or stuff that like? All right. Well, we've talked a lot about moral choices in games and games that allow you to kind of choose and things, either to varying degrees. Either your choices do matter or they don't matter, and they're handled well or handled poorly. What about games? We've only talked about one, and that was a game that did it well, Spec Ops: The Line, that kind of railroads you into one kind of moral mindset, right?
Right.
What's a game that's the opposite, that does the same thing? It railroads you onto one kind of moral path and does it very badly. Like, can you think
Was
of
very
one?
bad. Okay. Thing is, I quite often like these moral games because it makes you think. And so I feel like a bad version of that would just be you don't really feel any regret or something for the actions that you do.
Oh, I've got one then.
Okay.
Detroit Become Human.
I haven't played this.
All right.
This is the one where you're like look like a human but you're a
Yeah.
robo.
Yeah. So Detroit Become Human was a game that came out for the PS4. It's also like pretty much like a story game. It's a game in the very, very narrowest sense, whereas you walk around and can complete objectives, and there's occasionally quick time events where you have to hit a button really fast.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the extent of the gameplay. It's mostly story based, so I don't really consider it to be a game. But
Good.
it's like near future in Detroit, and basically there's a bunch of androids have been made. They've been made to look like humans, and they have taken over like most of the menial jobs, like shopkeeper, truck driver, garbage
Okay.
collector,
So is it
people.
about civil rights, basically?
Yeah, and that was, I think, the first mistake is they made the game about civil rights
Okay.
because it would have a cleaner and better way to go about it would have been to maybe go. One of the first things that you see people protesting about in the game is the androids are taking all the jobs, right?
Right.
And so people are out of work. There's a lot more poor. So they could have gone for a storyline about wealth inequality. I think that would have been maybe a little bit more apt. But instead, they went for a very uh, civil rights kind of analogy. It didn't
Yeah.
really work out too well. And one of the reasons it didn't work out too well is there's only one likable character.
Right. Yeah, because you play as three, don't you?
You do. You play through as three people. One is a kind of housekeeper slash nurse android who is this dude for this old painter. He's rich, but he's in a wheelchair, and so this android is like a housekeeper
Servant.
slash
Yeah.
servant, right? And the old dude who he's this person too, he treats him like basically like a son almost.
Oh, okay. I was expecting
And
it to be the opposite way, right? He
no, no,
treats him
no.
like
He
a jerk.
treats him like a son, but his actual son resents the android for it, and some stuff happens. The old dude ends up
Uh,
dead, and the android ends up, blamed industrial accident, and he gets thrown in the garbage heap.
gotcha.
Um,
It
the
sounds
other
like My Little Toaster, whatever it was called.
Brave Little Toaster. I love that movie as a
Brave
kid.
Little Toaster.
Um,
Anyway, yeah.
Other android is this woman who, again, like a nanny bot. Essentially, she's like a what is it? Like a housekeeper slash babysitter for this guy. Single dad, has a daughter. Um,
Okay, sounds very similar to the first one.
Similar, except the dad is like he's unemployed. He spends all his time drinking and like huffing on this future version of crack,
Hmm.
and is mildly abusive. Well, he varies between mildly abusive and very abusive.
Okay.
And then the third person is an android employed by the corporation that makes the androids, and he essentially is sent out to take care of androids that malfunction, either by like essentially it's the very first mission in the game. This android has to talk down an android that's gone crazy and has taken a little girl hostage, and
Okay.
like killed her father and presumably her mother too. Or it may have just been her father.
Hmm.
And then he's like
So you
on.
always play as an android.
You always play as an android. All three characters are androids. The problem is, now it's a really good setup. I think they could have done something with this. The corporate android guy is actually the most interesting part of the story because he teams up with like this police officer, this detective that has like hatred for androids, and the police officer is like ordered by his superior to work with the guy, and the two of them at first like have a very abrasive relationship, but the cop starts to warm to him, and the android starts acting a little bit less robotic, working together.
Okay.
It's like a really good plot line. I really enjoyed it.
Can I
The
say this is like almost a carbon copy of a British TV program, which I'll talk about in a bit.
Okay, we'll talk about it in media. um
Okay.
but
Yeah.
that's the setup, right? The problem is two out of the three characters, or two out of the three plot lines, no, three out of the three plot lines, they shit on. So, and they do it in different ways. The one that is immediately terrible is the guy who is the servant slash son figure to the old guy in the wheelchair. That android has it's just immediately unlikable. Like he gets thrown out because he gets blamed for the death of the old guy,
Yeah.
and he ends up in a garbage heap. And they do this weird scene that I think is supposed to like horrify you and make you feel pity and sympathy for them, because you're in a junkyard and some of the androids are still partially activated, and but they're partially
Hmm.
demolished or something. Like it's meant to look like horrifying, but they're fucking robots. I had no sympathy for them because they
Right.
didn't build up. It happened too early in the game. They didn't build up this thing in my mind that they actually have the capability of experiencing emotions. They
Yeah, I think
just
that's the real divide, isn't it?
let me. So they show that, but they didn't build it up enough before it to happen. Second plot line, the nanny bot. she takes the kid away because the father goes crazy and nearly beats the android to death in front of the kid. She manages to escape with the little girl and essentially kidnaps her. Um, Unfortunately, you get to the end of the game and you find out, spoiler alert, that the little girl is also an android. And the father had lost his actual daughter and bought like an android replacement to kind of help him deal with his grief. And
Right.
so it went from a plot line of can a robot learn to love a human to, well, a robot's just loving another robot. And it derailed the whole thing. There is some payoff at the end if you do things right, and the father kind of makes up with the both of them, and looks like he's going to change. The third plot line was the one I was the most bitter about, because I loved the RoboCop like dynamic the whole way through, and at the end, you're forced if you decide that you want to side with the company that makes the androids and go like, no, they're robots, let them stay robots. If you decide to go that route, which is the way I went, because in my headcanon, this guy was, he was, that was his job, and he was just doing his job. And if you do that, you're forced to kill the other cop.
Right.
But so this was what the game really lost me, was though after on the first guy's storyline, the one that ends up in the junkyard. I'm jumping all over the place here because I'm remembering bits and pieces of this as I'm talking. I literally there's a scene where you have to do a bunch of QuickTime events, like you're that android who somehow becomes the leader of an android civil rights movement. Somehow he gathers a bunch of robots together, and he essentially, if he touches them, he can transfer his code to them and make them suddenly want to rebel, which to me sounded like a virus. So he's out there infecting all of these other androids to make them march, right?
Yep.
And then like the riot police come out and they go to try and stop these androids because they're clearly malfunctioning. And you have to do a bunch of QuickTime events to get the guy to essentially not die to the riot police.
Yep.
I literally put down the controller and went to my kitchen to make some food. Because I was like, nope, he's dying. I hate that character. Like, I am doing the world a service because he is infecting all of these other androids. Like, it's going to completely destroy the economy. Like, no. The only moral thing I could do was put the controller down, and I did. And it took like a solid 5 minutes of failing QuickTime events before he actually died. Like, they really did not want this you to have this character die in the plot line.
Right. Yeah, I know you can have them all die, can't you?
Yeah, in different ways. But
yeah, there's for the media segment. I'm just gonna say I'm going to be revisiting this for sure.
All I'm gonna say to capstone all of that rambling.
Okay.
Is this game had a interesting premise, 3 characters that on the surface had interesting like backstories. They somehow in the course of the game, through just really poor writing decisions, made me hate one of them so much that I literally stopped playing the game so that he would die and I could play as just the other 2.
Yeah.
So
you went from being a favorite to your least favorite?
No, my favorite was always the RoboCop guy.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry. I was saying it was him that was having these decisions, but no, I understand what you mean.
Yeah. It was the guy who took care of the dude in the wheelchair, the guy that got thrown out. He's the one that ends up being the revolution guy. Okay. And I don't know. It's so ham-fistedly written that it just none of it meshed well. Anyway. Okay. So that's the end of segment 1. Unless you want to have any final thoughts, because I just rambled for the last 8 minutes.
No, that's right. I'm just trying to keep the things that you said in my memory for in 10 minutes' time when we're talking about this again.
Okay. All right. We're going to wrap it up there. This is the end of segment 1. Thank you all for listening, and we will be back soon with segment 2 of episode 9.